So this is an update on Project Embridge. So let's go back to what Project Embridge is. It is a shared payment infrastructure that uses CBDC, in particular wholesale CBDC, of the participating central banks to achieve instant cross-border payments. So having listened to the panel just now, a lot of the concepts that they talked about, wholesale CBDC, one platform, interoperable by design, settlement finality, two-tier, atomic settlement, that's what we're seeking to achieve with the mBridge. So in terms of the history of the mBridge, it goes back to a proof of concept in 2021, then a prototype and a pilot in 2022, continued development and testing throughout 2023-2024, and now we are quite close to reaching the MVP stage, or the minimum viable product. That's what MVP stands for. The mBridge has been built on three key pillars. We always thought it is critical to not just think about technology, but to think about legal and governance. And we thought about them in parallel to thinking about the technology. It is often that you develop a technology and then you realize you're missing the legal and the governance aspect. We did not want it to be there, so we have a parallel process. So let me elaborate on each of these three tiles. So the first one is the technology. It is, as you might know by now, if you've read the reports, it is a decentralized network. That means it is built on distributed ledger technology, and each of the central banks is operating a node. It is open sourced to the participant central banks. That means that the participant central banks each can check the code, penetration test the code, review and audit the code. It is Ethereum virtual machine, or EVM, compatible. What this means is that any smart contracts that are built on Ethereum become interoperable with the mBridge. So let's see if at any stage these smart contracts that are being developed, for example, for automated market makers, come to the right level of maturity to be usable in a central banking context, then there is already this compatibility. The system is also ISO 20022 enabled. This is very important for new financial market infrastructures, as it is the new standard. The system is privacy preserving. What that means is that every central bank only sees the transactions in its own CBDC, and that is very important. As I mentioned, the central banks are deploying the validator nodes, and each of the 4 participating central banks has deployed their validator node already. And then lastly, the commercial banks deploy ordinary nodes. I will show you a demo towards the end of this presentation. So now let me move to the exciting side, the legal side. Someone said the law is the law. And my background actually is in the law, so I'm quite passionate about the law. In sum, we have 2 key forms of agreements here. One is between the central banks and the BIS, and we call that the multilateral project agreement. This project agreement can be acceded to by new central banks through the accession instrument. It is a document attached to this project agreement that new central banks who want to join the project as a participant can execute. Secondly, we have the framework for the commercial banks, because I think we have some commercial bank representatives here. That is called the adherence agreement to the rulebook. And the rulebook has 2 core components: the platform terms, which are the key legal terms that govern the interaction of these commercial banks and central banks on the platform, and secondly, the technical terms. The technical terms for this system are quite voluminous because the system is significant. So let me now turn to governance. So we've also completed, as mentioned, a governance framework. It sets out our current governance structure, which is a committee-based structure. It also sets out our decision-making, including what we do with consensus and what we do through voting. So that is the key to the governance framework. In terms of the committee structure, we currently have a steering committee that is supported by 5 subcommittees. The 5 subcommittees cover the following 5 areas: technology, legal, policy, business, and risk and compliance. So with that, I will turn shortly to a demo. I would note that this is still the platform that is on the testnet. It will continue to evolve. Some of the functionalities will continue to be designed and continue to be developed. So you can now turn to the video, please.
This is a demo of the Embridge platform user interface. Please note that what you will witness are dummy transactions and no real data is involved. For the sake of time, all interfaces have been logged in and wallets have been issued with CBDC. Let's first look at a central bank's view. In this case, it's that of the HKMA. As you can see, the interface has a dashboard that provides summary statistics of the transactions on the Embridge platform. On the left-hand side panel, we can see the various functionalities available to the central bank, including access approval rights to onboard selected domestic commercial banks and the ability to set transaction limits and parameters, such as the maximum amount they can hold in their wallet or transact in a single cross-border payment. Central banks can also set alerts for foreign exchange rates agreed outside of a predetermined rate range for all currency pairs on the platform. They can also approve CBDC issuance and redemption requests and see their commercial banks' on-bridge balances and transaction details. Here we have a Hong Kong commercial bank's interface, and suppose that its Hong Kong local corporate client wants to pay for the import of coconuts from a Thai corporate and has agreed to pay 400,000 Thai baht. As of now, the Hong Kong corporate's bank on mBridge has no e-Thai baht, so it initiates an FX transaction with a Thai bank to exchange e-Hong Kong dollar for 400,000 e-Thai baht. The maker enters the details, including the exchange rate that was agreed off the platform, selects the counterparty bank, and verifies the transaction with its security PIN. A series of compliance checks will happen in the background. The transaction then goes to the checker, who verifies the details and authorizes the transaction with the 6-digit PIN before it is sent to the counterparty Thai bank. If we now turn to the Thai bank's view, we can see that it has 10 minutes to accept the transaction, as shown here, after which the transaction will automatically fail if no action is taken. The Thai bank reviews the details and confirms the transaction. The atomic PVP exchange of both legs of the FX transaction now takes place. Within seconds, the transaction is added to the blockchain ledger once the block is validated. It is marked as successful, balances are updated, and the transaction is settled with finality. If we now go back to the Hong Kong bank's wallet balance, we can see that its e-Thai baht balance is updated to 400,000. With this e-Thai baht in its wallet, the Hong Kong bank can now pay the Thai corporate's local bank on mBridge 400,000 e-Thai baht for the coconuts. After inputting the transaction details and completing the necessary compliance and authorization checks, the payment is sent to the Thai corporate's local bank within a matter of seconds, and the cross-border payment for this international trade transaction between Hong Kong and Thailand is settled. This demonstrates the potential of faster, safer, cheaper, and more accessible cross-border payments on the mBridge platform.
Great. So let me finish with the future vision. So Project mBridge targets to enhance efficiency and access to cross-border payments by connecting interested central banks and commercial banks around the world as a public good. And this is particularly relevant in our view for EMDEs, where the correspondent banking withdrawal has been the more acute. The MVP platform obviously will continue to evolve based on the learnings derived from real value transactions on it during the MVP phase. And to achieve this, we encourage more central banks and more private sector participation. And with that, I will conclude with what Agustin said. We have to take small steps and giant leaps. I don't know where the mBridge lies. If it is a small step or a giant leap, I would say maybe a medium leap. But let's see if we succeed, in which case it could be a giant one. Thank you.